Hello, I'm Penny Ryan, National Chair of TG. I want to tell you about my choice for a woman to be written into history. She's Mary Harris Smith, who was born in 1844 in London. Her father was clerk to a banker and naval agent, and quite often he'd bring work home to do, and she'd help him with the bookkeeping and accounting side of things. So much so that her father recognised her skills and at the age of 16 arranged for her to have special teaching from a schoolmaster from King's College in mathematics. After that, she went on to train at the Society for the Promotion of Women in Employment as a bookkeeper. That led to employment in an accountant's office in a mercantile business in the city. She stayed there for several years before moving to the Royal School of Art Needlework. There, she managed to make a lot of connections. Several people would ask her to audit their work for them. It gave her the confidence eventually to move to setting up her own practice in 1887 in Victoria Street in London. She practiced under the name of M. Harris Smith, Public Accountant. However, when she advertised in women's magazines, which was her chosen medium, she described herself as a lady accountant, and as a result attracted a lot of female clients. She would work with women who were making headway into male-dominated fields. She'd represent farmers, estates. She'd also represent a number of large organisations that reflected her concerns about equality and the need for female suffrage. So she worked for a parliamentary committee for women's suffrage, the Society for the Return of the Poor Law Guardians, the National Union of Women Workers of Great Britain, and the Gentlewomen's Employment Club, not to mention the Soroptimists. She said, "I think my speciality is in investigating and reporting upon the prospects of various undertakings and remodelling of accounts and books so as to save labour and to ensure a good check system, unravelling neglected accounts and restoring order and good form out of chaos and confusion." In saying that, she was distancing herself from pure bookkeeping. After she'd set up her practice, she applied to the Society of Incorporated Accountants and Auditors, but was rejected on the grounds of her gender. She made several more applications over a period of several years. At one time, she was advised that the society was thinking of changing its constitution to permit women, but sadly, 72% of the membership voted against her. She enlisted the support of Millicent Garrett Fawcett and the suffragist movement, as her aim was to open the practice of accounting to women on the same basis as men, including being able to join the professional bodies. That meant that, in her opinion, the easy option of setting up women's associations were not appropriate. Definitely not the right thing to do. By 1891, she'd given up on the society and decided that she would join the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. Now, the Institute, which is my accounting body, was set up under Royal Charter in 1880 and was the first of the accounting institutes which now exist all around the country, all around the world. But it was men only. Her first application in 1891 was made on the basis that she'd had sufficient experience. After all, she'd been running her practice for 4 years at that point. And men were often, at that time, allowed to use that mode of entry into the profession. Applications Committee gave her a decent hearing, but they referred the matter to the Institute's solicitors. Unfortunately, the solicitors decided that because the Royal Charter used the words his, he, and himself, rather than she, her, and herself, that women couldn't be allowed. Furthermore, over the next few years, it became very clear that the Institute wasn't prepared to change its constitution to enable women to join. In fact, the chairman of the Institute at one point turned round and said, "Well, if we're having women, I'm going." He was quite an influential man, but clearly a bit of a misanthrope. Mary carried on her fight, but she was a shrewd woman. She learned that she needed publicity more widely, and she undertook an interview with a magazine called The Women's Signal in 1895. During that, she described the fact that she had a very varied clientele, and explained her interests in suffrage and in equality, and that she really felt that women could do the same job equally as well as men. There were other female accountants around in London. In 1909, there were noted to be 5 females practicing as an accountant, but none of the others seemed to be interested in gaining professional membership. For some, the examinations were a barrier. For others, they were quite happy to join a lesser group like the London Association of Accountants. Mary tried the Institute again in 1896, in spite of that wretched president, this time asking if she'd be allowed to take the final examination. The main route into accountancy, or to join the profession through the Institute, was a period of articles with examinations at critical points. But in the old days, and I think still occasionally, it was possible to take an alternative route of experience if you could demonstrate that you had appropriate background education. Mary was turned down again. Very disappointing. Not all men were anti her application. She had a lot of support from men working in the city. She even had men clients, remember. She also managed to get a lot of support from MPs. Of course, they were all men. And that might have had something to do with the fact that in 1909, the Board of Trade introduced a professional accounting bill. The profession was generally very much in favour until they discovered that the Board of Trade were insisting that they should be opened up to women on an equal footing. The bill sunk without trace. Mary kept on fighting for recognition, but with the intervention of the First World War, people began to see things rather differently. Of course, we know that the war itself wasn't the main reason for women getting the vote, but it did open up opportunities for women that hadn't previously existed. At 1919, that was recognised by the Society of Incorporated Accountants and Auditors, and they opened up admission to women, and Mary became a member in 1919. But 1919 saw a much more eventful piece. It was the passing of the Sex Discrimination Removal Act 1919, which saw the appointment of the first women MPs, but it meant that the professions could no longer exclude women on the basis of gender. It was illegal for the Institute to bar Mary. In May 1920, she was admitted as a fellow at the age of 75. In her opinion, her application was made not just for herself, but for all women on the grounds of admission equal and status equal with male members. Mary continued with her practice until shortly before her death in 1934, and in her obituary the accountant reported that she had made a great contribution to the profession, both as a woman and as an accountant. I became a member of the Institute in 1980. At that time, there were just under 3,000 female accountants, or 4.2% of the membership of the Institute. The latest figures show that there are 44,000 female members, quite an increase, but that still only represents 29% of the membership. More work to be done, I think. Thank you.